Ladies and gentlemen, we are live!
Lyrically, I'm untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600. Untouchable, uncrushable. Running in a 600, running in a 600.
What's going on, everybody? This is your host, Brandon Stubbs, and this is another episode of Punch the Face Radio. Appreciate you joining me here this evening. Tonight, I'm going to talk some boxing, some retirements, horribleness in MMA media, and some cage fighting as well. You can be a part of the show by calling in at area code 929-477-3165. You can tweet me throughout the show at BrandonP2TF. You can also email me at brandon@punchtheface.com. But going to start tonight talking some boxing. We had two cards, luckily not simultaneously, on Saturday night. We were actually blessed enough to where one ended early enough to where it wasn't an issue. We were able to actually see both fight cards in its entirety and not overlap. It was actually really good timing. Not really meant to happen that way, but it ended up happening that way. We had the Fox card. There was a regular Fox, PBC, Omar Figueroa, and Robert Guerrero. And then we had the HBO card headlined by Miguel Bortlich. I don't know, I'm butchering the last name. Berlich, I think that's how you enunciate it. And, Muri. No, probably butchered his last name as well. I'm not even going to try the first name. So we had the two different cards going on. And like I said, luckily, they were not at the same time. We definitely lucked up in that regards because anymore we have boxing come on both networks or Showtime and HBO at the same time, but this time around we didn't. So let's first start off with the card that ended first, and that was the PBC card on Fox. Couple of different directions to go here. Let's first start here with where do I want to start at? Let's start here with Arthur Spitzka. Let's start there. Now, he was returning. It's the first time I've seen him back fighting since his injury, since he ended up hurting his leg in a weird freak accident against, I wouldn't say freak accident, against Deontay Wilder. It seems to be like years ago now. It just kind of seems that long since Deontay Wilder's kind of been at the helm or amongst the helm there at the heavyweight division. But it's been a while since we've seen Arthur Spitzka fight, and we kind of wondered, okay, what does he have left? How's he going to come back and look post-injury? We hadn't seen him in over a year and a half. It seems way longer than that. So he looked awful. That's the best way of describing it. He faced Adam Kloniki. Close enough. And Adam pretty much just roasted him. It was not even competitive. Spitzka looked old. He looked washed, which is a shame because he's only 28. But you can definitely tell the time away from the ring, it did him no service. He really looked poor out there throughout the fight. Just looked bad. Luckily for him, the fight didn't last long. He ended up getting stopped. Adam ended up picking up the win. For Spitzka, you can pretty much chalk him out of any sort of heavyweight talk or heavyweight contention of any sorts, at least for the immediate future. And for his opponent, we don't really know where this leaves Adam going forward because he was kind of a relative, I don't want to say, be disrespectful to say an unknown, but he was kind of a guy that was brought in to be an opponent. He's only had 16 career fights. He's a local guy. He's from Brooklyn, but he's also a Polish fighter. Obviously, with him having a very heavy Polish population there in the New York, Long Island, Jersey area, it made sense to put him there on the card. So he's fought all of his fights there pretty much in New York and New Jersey area. So it made sense to put him on, but he was kind of looked upon as being an opponent. He was not really supposed to be a live wire there in the fight, and now, sure enough, he's gotten a win, and he's now a live wire, someone in the heavyweight division now. So, you'll probably see him again on a PBC card. Simply for the fact that he won his fight. The heavyweight division is not the most thickest division there is, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. So You never know. You never know. But as far as Bilska goes, it's a wrap. We won't be seeing him doing anything of any importance anytime soon. That now leads me to the co-main event or co-feature of the night. I don't know exactly how they like to word things there at PBC. But Marcus Brown. Marcus Brown looked good out there. He faced Sean Moynihan, and we kind of knew the fight could end up the way it did, but I don't think we thought it was going to be as bad as it did. Marcus Brown subsequently roasted Mahogany, roasting him out there. It was not even competitive. This now makes 2 straight back-to-back KO wins for Marcus Brown, which now leads me to the question of, is Marcus Brown ready for the big time? Is he ready to be talked about in title fights there at 175? Because let's face it, 175 is kind of a fluid division right now. We don't know what Andre Ward's going to do, if he's going to threaten to retire again, as he likes to do quite often. So, I mean, it's a fluid division. You don't know what's going to happen right now with Sergey Kovalev. Obviously, we'll talk about Joe Smith and Sullivan Barrera. We got Alvarez and possibly Adonis Stevenson fighting. So it's a really fluid situation, fluid division. But like I said now, is it okay if we start talking about Marcus Brown being in the title hunt? And I think the answer to that is yes. I think Marcus Brown is definitely one of those guys that right now, why not? Why not put him in a title eliminator or get him something closer to being in a title fight? I think he's done enough and has showcased enough in this short amount of time that he's a legitimate guy. I mean, he can be a threat. He can be a face and a name there at 175. He's now beating Moynihan. He got Thomas Top Dog Williams, who he KO'd, who was just fighting for a title. Was fighting a title fight. A fight before that, he's beating Gabriel Campillo. So I mean, he's got some some names there now, a part of his resume. So I really do like him doing big things and moving on and getting a title shot. Why not put him against a Artur Beterbiev? Why not now Joe Smith Jr. at some juncture? Maybe sometime in New York next year. It can make sense. Be a good step-up fight for him. But I think Marcus Brown definitely showed a lot of shades of improvement and growth. And at 175 is, like I said, as fluid of a situation as it is right now, why not? I mean, he didn't make an impact. He made an impact with this win here on Saturday night. So a tip of the hat, some applause here to Marcus Brown for his effort here Saturday night against Sean Moynihan. Which now leads me to the night's main event. Now, unfortunately, I was unable to watch these fights live. I was covering MMA Live, which we'll talk about later in the show. But I was able to obviously keep up the tabs on everything that was happening via Twitter. Thank God for social media. Social media is a lifesaver when you're out trying to cover other events while other sporting events are happening. So shout out to everybody on Twitter for posting all the what they did here during the fights here on Saturday night. But Omar Figueroa looked very sluggish and I don't want to say out of it, a little bit sluggish in the opening round of his fight against Robert Guerrero, and he turns it on later and eventually got the stoppage, knocking Guerrero down a total of 5 times in 3 rounds. And kudos to Omar Figueroa for picking up the win, going in against a guy who's pretty rugged. Really, to be honest, I mean, we hadn't seen anyone go in and just stop Robert Guerrero ever like that. That at least that I can think of immediately. I can say, he went out, he flat out stopped him. That hasn't happened. No one's actually stopped him in a fight. So, for Omar Figueroa to go out and do that you got to give him some credit there. What version of Robert Guerrero was he facing? He's facing a guy who's been fighting here, 42 career bouts, over the age of 30, been in a lot of wars, a lot of hellacious fights, especially over the last few years, where he's won a lot of 12 rounds, a lot of unanimous decisions where he's won some and lost some. So, I mean, he had fought a guy who, you kind of got to wonder how much tread was left in his tire. So, tip of the cap to Omar Figueroa for that. But that now leaves the question of when the hell does Omar Figueroa do or go from here? Now, he's fought his last 3 fights at 3 different weight classes. Super lightweight, he's had a super welterweight, and now welterweight bout here against Robert Guerrero this past weekend. For Figueroa, it's going to be him figuring out, no pun intended, what weight class makes the most sense. Can he be a factor at 147? I'm not going to go that far. Granted, a stop of Robert Guerrero is a great thing to have on your resume. I don't know if that's something that I would hang my hat on and say, yeah, I can hang with the top dogs in 147. That's a bit extreme. So I'm not going to go that far. What I will say is that 140 could be a little bit more interesting for him. But if he's willing to bounce back between the weight classes, he may be able to find some fights and some big money fights amongst the 2 weight classes. Figueroa is still undefeated. He's still a relatively young guy. I mean, at age 27. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with him going forward. But right now, I would say 140 would be where he probably needs to be. We know he's had some time off. He was off 19 months due to the multiple fractures he's had in both hands and having a lot of issues with the surgeries, the hands not healing correctly. From all indications I've heard post-Guerrero fight, his hands are okay, didn't suffer any injuries with those. So, maybe he takes a couple weeks off, kind of lets, whatever damage he did to him while in the fight heal and get back in training camp and maybe, try to get a fight here maybe in October or November. But he is a PBC fighter, so there's that. We know how they don't like actually having their fighters fight. So go figure. So Omar Figueroa picks up a win. So, after that, we kind of wondered, okay, what's left of Robert Guerrero? Well, we found out in a press release that was sent out to us on Monday that Robert Guerrero is now retiring. He is done. Like I said, over 40 career bouts, a lot of wars, especially the last few years, and he's done. So he's retiring. Now, was it time for him to retire? I would say absolutely. This loss here against Omar Figueroa, that was now his 5th loss out of his last 7 fights, with 3 of those being in a row, with Figueroa, Danny Garcia, and in between that, David Portela. Now, the David Portela one's a little bit interesting. It was a split decision loss, but we often hear the phrase in boxing, this guy's fighting garbage men and cab drivers. Literally, Robert Guerrero lost to a cab driver. David Portela was a cab driver down in Argentina and actually was able to quit his job after beating Garcia. Go figure. So, when you have losses like that, that's not good. So we put on Punch to the Face Radio, Twitter feed, Brandon P2TF. We put on the Twitter feed, how will you remember Robert Guerrero? So we put a poll up. We had 4 different options to choose from. Probably not the smartest thing to do, knowing some of my Twitter followers, but hey, that's what we do. That's what the Twitter poll is for. And what the hell happened to the results here? So the options were, how would you remember Robert Guerrero? Option number 1 was multi-divisional champion. Option number 2 was a story about his wife's cancer. As we all know, every time Robert Guerrero would fight, we had to hear the story about his wife's cancer, him going and pretty much pausing his career to see about her. He subsequently took some time off and was, relinquished belts and retired. Subsequently to watch and be over his wife and take care of his wife, which is extremely commendable for him to do. So we know that story, but it's one that we heard over and over and over again, to where it just kind of became a bit much. You kind of got tired of hearing about it. Okay, we get it. She had cancer. She healed herself. She was able to not heal herself, but to heal and be back to normal. So we got kind of tired of hearing about that. The other option was his dad. Now, we know his dad is a very, quote-unquote, colorful character. Looks like he's fresh out of prison every time we see him in the corner of Robert Guerrero. So that was an option. The third option was battering Andre Berto. Now, for those who don't know or can't remember, he put a beating on Andre Berto here back in 2012. Won a unanimous decision, pretty much beat him up here for 12 rounds. Andre Berto's eyes were a mess with swellingness around them. But to Berto's credit, tough guy, hung in there the full fight despite taking a beating. So the results went as follow. 20% of it's actually a tie here. 20% of the voters said multi-divisional champion and the story about his wife's cancer. That's what they'll remember him for. 27% of the polls said they'll remember him for his outspoken and very colorful dad. And then 33% of the voters said they remember him for beating Andre Berto. So it sounds like Robert Guerrero's legacy is going to be remembered for him beating Andre Berto. That's what his legacy is going to be. Now, I had some people on Twitter make some comments, which is always a fun time there. A lot said they were going to remember him for obviously for beating up on Andre Berto and swelling his eyes. Another one said, and something I maybe completely forgot about, said they remember him for quitting against Duda Yordan back in 2009. That was a headbutt that pretty much caused a cut. With it being before 4 rounds were completed, it didn't go to the scorecards, and people said that Guerrero could have continued. He chose to quit. I don't know if I'm going to completely label him as a quitter. I also remember him losing to Orlando Salido. It's one of those that kind of people seem to forget. He did lose against Orlando Salido here back in 2006 against Orlando Salido. Lost that fight via unanimous decision. However, the fight ended up getting overturned to a no contest because Salido ended up pissing dirty after the fight. So Salido has ruined a lot of guys' careers and beat them up and took belts from them, but unfortunately does a lot of dumb stuff outside of the ring to where he doesn't always get the accolades and credit he deserves. So Salido beat him as well. One of those things I often forget that. I think a lot of people forget that as well. So I don't know. Is Robert Guerrero a Hall of Famer? Sure. I mean, the bar for being in boxing Hall of Fames aren't the highest in the world, truth be told. I think it's more difficult to get into some more team sport Hall of Fames compared to boxing Hall of Fames. And there's so many boxing Hall of Fames. You have your one in New York. You have Nevada Hall of Fame if you fought in Nevada. Different states have Hall of Fame. So whatever. He'll be in somebody's Hall of Fame at some juncture. I will say this. He always showed hard for the most part. A tough guy. It took him getting to his very last fight for somebody to actually stop him in ring. So, I mean, kudos to him for being able to have the career that he had. Jumped many weight classes as well throughout his time. This guy started off fighting at featherweight, won titles there, to move up and was fighting at, welterweight by the time his career was over. So, great career, great guy. I wish him the best now in his next chapter of life. Now the thing is, will he stay retired? And we see this so many times with boxers that they get that itch. They get that itch and they want to come back. And I hope, and I mean, we know how boxing works. I hope that he does not get that itch and he stays retired. Some guys will take a couple of years off and get the itch and want to come back. 42 career bouts, you're over the age of 30, you've lost 3 straight fights, you've lost 5 out of 7. It's time to move on. That's not like you lost against slouches amongst those 7. Floyd Mayweather, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Omar Figueroa, they're amongst that. But it's losses. There's a lot of them in a row. So that's hard to come back from. So I wish Robert Guerrero nothing but the best going forward. I just hope I don't see him in ring again. So to round off the Fox card, one more thing I want to take to task is the horrifically bad commentating by Danny Garcia and Virgil Hunter. It's bad. It was awful. It was so PBC. I mean, it's a shame that they get on the platform that they have, between Fox Sports 1 and Fox, and just put on shit shows, man. Like, really, Omar Figueroa versus Robert Guerrero did not belong on television. To their credit, and maybe somewhat they were lucky with on the Fox card, that the fights actually ended up being somewhat entertaining and had stoppages to them. So, I mean, that helps them out in that regard. But the actual matchups made no sense. It really didn't do anything to help a lot of people, besides maybe Marcus Brown. It just made no sense for this fight to be on Fox. You would think that PBC will be able to do better than what they do with their matchmaking and their scheduling to get a more high-profile fight for this card. And it's apparent that, again, that they don't know what the hell they're doing. It's just weird. It's weird. It's unfortunate. And Danny Garcia and Virgil Hunter suck at commentating. You know, I know people are going to say, oh, if it was so great, why don't you try to do it? It's just a lot tougher than you would think. No, it's probably not as tough as I think. I do this here every week. Do I screw up on names? Absolutely. Do I say some wacky shit? Absolutely. But Danny Garcia sounds completely lost. Virgil Hunter sometimes whispers in the mic and says just really creepy shit. I think I can do better than those two guys. Just putting that out there on a limb, I think I can do better than both Danny Garcia and Virgil Hunter at commentating. So if PBC wants to fly me out for one of their cards, you know, just cover my room and board, I'll audition on there. No problem. I can do a better job than those guys. Just give me the opportunity. So I'm just putting that out there. As much as I bash PBC, they want to cut me a check, I'll be more than willing to take advantage and take one of their commentating jobs. Hell, bring back Antonio Tarver, for Christ's sakes. He's not doing the cards on Spike anymore. He's better than those two. Not saying a lot, but he's better than those two. Put him back on the commentating desk. I don't get it. But I digress. Now, some interesting things have happened and have been reported that involve Danny Garcia. Is Danny Garcia maybe possibly up for a WBC title eliminator against Sean Porter? Now, if anybody has seen the weird Sean Porter, this is the best way of saying it, it's just really weird Sean Porter video where he kind of went pro wrestling style, and it was just awkward. I don't get it, but whatever. So, you know, I get Sean Porter wants the attention. I fully understand that, but, yeah. So if you haven't heard it, here is the audio of Sean Porter pretty much channeling his inner WWE.
None other than a cherry picker himself, Danny Garcia. What I Showtime saw, I've only just heard that the WBC will I Showtime Sean Porter to fight another title eliminator. And they want me to fight none other than a cherry picker himself, Danny Garcia. What I say to you, Danny Garcia, let's get it on. Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, that was possibly one of the weirdest things I've seen on Twitter in a while involving a boxer. And to put this in the context of people that haven't seen the video, if not, I am tweeting that out on my Twitter feed at BrandonP2TF, is the fact that Sean Porter is obviously in his house. His dad is probably filming this because they have a very weird dynamic. And he is shirtless with a leather jacket on, some nice sunglasses, I'm not going to front, and a hat. Behind him is all of his title belts in a nice glass case. And like I said, he's channeling his inner WWE vintage Macho Man Randy Savage. You know, I hope the fight happens because I think it could be a fun fight. But if this is the way we're going to try to sell it to the public or try to get public interest, this is not the way to do it. So Sean Porter, that is not a good look, homie. Don't do it in these streets. These social media streets are ripping you up for this one. I appreciate your heart and I appreciate the effort, but this video was not a good look for us to get excited for your fight against Danny Garcia. It's just not. We do have a caller calling in here on the show, so we got somebody here from the 503. So, caller, you're here live on Punch in the Face Radio.
Hey, well, yo, what up, Brandon? This is calling from Portland, Oregon. What up?
What's going on, man?
Yo, man, just chilling. You just listening. Just got to listen to the show right now, and now that you're talking about Sean Porter, with his WWE video that he put out. But to me, man, to be honest with you, man, my opinion about that whole thing is that it's funny, man. I don't take it as he's trying to keep. I don't think he's going to do this again. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he had kind of like a. The Macho Man thing going on with the oh yeah at the end, and I just get it, man. It's for fun, I think, in my opinion. I think it's really, it's really not to like, try to make a new name for yourself or, trying to put this out there. You know what I mean? It's just all fun and games for, Sean Porter, because he, the rumor is that he's supposed to get Danny Garcia for a title eliminator for Thurman, and if this is, if he just wants to have fun with it, man, it's just go with it, man. So, I mean, to me, it's all fun and games, man. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, disrespect, Sean Porter for that, but it's just, because Sean Porter is such a likable guy, he's such a likable fighter, and a fan favorite, style, to go with it. So it's like, it is what it is, but it's all fun and games and stuff. But yeah, man, is it cool to recap this last weekend's fights?
I was just going to get here to the HBO card. One more thing I do want to touch on with PBC is I was talking about, obviously Arthur Spilska looked like crap and pretty much is washed. There's the possible rumor of a Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz, possibly Bernays Sturvin, all in the mix here. I just want to say here to the heavyweight division, get something together. We have already our champion over the UK in Anthony Joshua. Klitschko, I think, is still clearly a number 2. Whatever we're doing here in America, let's get our shit together so we can possibly have a big unification fight here sometime in 2018. That's all I'm going to say in that regards, because it sounds like that's a lot of murkiness, possibly some lawyers being involved and people getting payoffs. It's a hot mess. So, if the Rangers aren't that right to get that title fight, let him have it. And if you're not going to let him have it, let him have the belt. That's all I'm going to say in that regards. But, go away, man. What do you want to recap, or what did you want to talk about here in regards to this weekend's fights?
Yeah, so, I want to touch up on Joe Smith Jr. and Benny Benton with Bruchette. First off, I want to, talk about that. It's kind of nice to see, HBO finally have a card without it being pay-per-view. So, and plus this was a triple header, which I was excited about. And, you had Joe Smith Jr. coming off that win against, B-Hop. And but with this time, man, he had a real tough fight in front of him with Sullivan Barrera, man. And I got to say, man, Sullivan Barrera just keeps impressing me more and more now that I see him, because, I mean, he only lost to Andre Ward, and, that was a tough loss for him, but it seemed like he didn't take anything away from that fight. Like, it didn't make him less of a fighter. Like, he just improved. And with this fight, I mean, like, in the first round with Joe Smith Jr., like, he got knocked down right at like the last, like, I think it was like the last 20 seconds or the last 10 seconds of the fight of the first round. And then I mean, I don't know if you thought, Brandon, but I thought it was over, dude. I was like, holy shit, dude, this fucking Joe Smith Jr. has got some power, man, on him, and it was a left hook that caught him on the forehead, on the temple area. And, I thought it was the beginning of the end for Sullivan Barrera, man. But then after that, man, Sullivan Barrera, after that first round, man, he just shook up the cobwebs, shook up all the, maybe the nervousness, or, shook up, all the things that he, was probably ruining him. And he looked good. He started, looking better, and, started just imposing his strategy into the fight, and he looked incredible, man. So, and I want to see him against the winner of I mean, not the winner, but I want to see him against Kovalev, because he might get the Andre Ward rematch again, but to me it's more like that one's gonna take some time, because I feel like Andre Ward is gonna, like, he doesn't want to fight this year. I think he's gonna take the rest of this time off, and he's talking about cruiserweights and maybe heavyweight, and but Sullivan Barrera, I just hope he gets Kovalev or even Adonis Stevenson, man, one of those two. I mean, just because, like, Kovalev just lost about a few weeks ago or a month ago now, and he's still a top contender. So he's only lost to Ward twice. So it's I want to see him against that. And but Sullivan Barrera impressed me. It sucks about Joe Smith Jr., man, because I really liked him. He was cool. I hope HBO brings him back, or PBC. Maybe they could still make that Adonis Stevenson fight. I don't know, but I don't know. But Brandon, was it weird? Let me ask you something. Like, was it weird? Like, after the ninth round, what's the name? The referee. I always call him Willy Wonka because he kind of looks like that guy. And the referee said, this is the last final round, and everybody was like confused. Like, I thought this was a 12-rounder. You know what I mean? This is the 10th round only. And in your opinion, was that weird? Like, should that be allowed in boxing where they could change the rules like that the last minute? Like, they said in the commentary, they said it was the last minute change. So, I mean, what's your opinion about that? Should they not allow that, you know what I mean? Because it kind of took some steam away from us, man, because we were excited for 12 rounds, man. I mean, it only going 10 rounds. They kind of took away, the glory from Joe Smith Jr., but, I mean, it's, I'd like to ask you, your opinion on that.
Well, first thing I want to say in regards to Joe Smith Jr., he fought the last 9 rounds of that fight with a broken jaw. So, Joe Smith Jr., my man, you're a beast. You're tough as hell. Broke jaw, you kept fighting on. We knew something wasn't right, but that's what it was, but it kept going. As far as the fight changing and the rounds changing, the amount of rounds, this isn't the first time we've seen this in boxing. Unfortunately, it won't be the last time. We see this quite often to where it's almost like there's a disconnect between the promoter and the athletic commission. I do need to say this. If this is something that's happening more and more, we need to have this. It needs to be settled, no more than 48 hours before the fight, where both camps and everybody knows ahead of time, this is what we agree upon, this is what it is. I've heard far too many times that these fights get changed to an 8-rounder, to 10-rounder, 12-rounder. Something gets shuffled up the day of the fight, and that's not fair to the fighters, not fair to the fans, and really to the broadcasting squads as well who are handling these fights, because, if they're planning and preparing, for one length of a fight and you change it to something different, sometimes that may have them scrambling trying to recoup and make up time, because they thought the fight was going to be longer. So, I mean, it's really strange, but I got to blame the commissions for that, because a lot of times it's them who's changing it, and also the promoters. And if it's, the camps between the two fighters, they got to get this kind of stuff cleared up before the fight to give both fighters, television, and whoever else ample time to adjust correctly in regards to the amount of time the fight is actually going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes away from us, the fans, and everybody watching, because to me, man, I was excited for 12 rounds, and, it is what it is. And I feel like, now that he must have came, they said rumors is that, Joe Smith Jr., suffered a broken jaw in the second round. But I feel like, with the whole, last-minute change, of the rounds, I feel like it was more, maybe something more than that, too, leading into the fight, maybe an injury, maybe him feeling sick. So I don't know what it is, but I hope they never do that again, or give us a heads up. You know what I mean? It's something, because it just made it. I don't know. To me, as a fan, it got me mad, because I was like, dude, what the heck? I want 12 rounds, man. I'd prefer 15 rounds. I'd love for it to go back to 15, but safety first. But I understand it's 12 rounds, but with the last minute changes, it upsets the fans, like you said. And but also. Also, if I could mention real quick, Bruchette, Bruchette and Mura, man, I thought, this fight, I really thought it was going to be a fight of the year candidate, but it obviously didn't live up to the fight, to the hype of the fight. And, credit to Bruchette, who I think understood what kind of fighter Mura is, because Mura, man, I mean, let's face it, man, when he fought Vargas, he dug deep to try to beat Vargas, even though Vargas still won that fight. Vargas took a lot of damage, and, he was never the same fighter after that. And I think Bruchette really knew what he had up against him, where this guy was not going to quit. He had that, samurai warrior in him, man, where he's just going to come forward, and he doesn't care. And obviously in the fight, that's what he kept doing. He tried to impose his will. He tried to come forward. But, Bruchette, credit to him, he had to change up his style, and, he had to box, he had to use the footwork, he had to use the jab, he had to use counters, Credit to him, he didn't want to get in a slugfest. He knew about what kind of high risk this fighter was, and I mean, a lot of people, from what I saw on my Twitter, they were, dogging on Bruchette, like, oh, he didn't fight like a warrior. But man, in my opinion, man, I would have fought the same way, because I thought Miro was such a dangerous fighter where he's not. I mean, like, when Vargas knocked him down, I mean, and then he got back up with his, hands up in the air, telling the world, telling the referee, telling the judges, telling the, people watching on TV, the audience, that I'm still in this fight. I'm here to fight. I'm not gonna, you better kill me in the ring for me to quit. So, in my opinion, I give all the credit to Bruchette for fighting smart and imposing his power and showing that he's actually got a different strategy instead of just brawling and making a fight out of it. And instead of he clearly took a 12-round unanimous decision to me, in my opinion. But I just wanted to mention that and give him his props. And hopefully we do see that Lomachenko fight in the future. But Lomo's got his own dance to, against Mariaga, so that's a tough fight in front of him, and especially it's on ESPN now. So, but for me, for Bruchette, man, I mean, Bruchette's got he's got a pretty big pool, of sharks to deal with, and and in my opinion, I think, my fantasy, if I could pick Bruchette's next fight, there's a guy out there named Tevin Farmer who's looking for an opponent, and obviously I don't think he's going to get that Gervonta Davis fight anytime soon. Maybe next year, because I don't think it's going to be on the undercard of Mayweather McGregor. I think that's a fun fight, man. I think that's a fight that we should see, but we'll see if it does come to fruition. But that's one of my fantasy fights I would love to see is Tevin Farmer versus Bruchette, man. That's a styles clash up fight, man. I would not know who to pick in that fight, man. It's just such a weird style clash up. So, in my opinion, that's my fantasy fight, and also, can I also before I get out of here, man, can I bring up the what happened in the UFC this last weekend with the Glaskov? Is that cool to bring up real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, cool. Thanks, brother. And the main event with I forget how you say his name. It's like Provinzio or something like that, and the Argentinian Brazilian dude. For he fought that dude. What's his name? The bouncer. What's his name? Yeah, Gunnar Nelson. Thank you. And man, I don't know. The only thing, he was talking about eye poke. I didn't see no eye poke. But he got finished in great fashion by that dude, man. What a knockout that was, man. My God, I was impressed by that knockout. But I wanted to ask you something, Brandon. Did you notice that he didn't come into the ring with the hand wraps under the gloves? Like, I don't know if you could clear that up, if you saw that, or maybe you could explain to me like what. Because I'm more of a MMA casual fan, so like. I don't know if you got to see that, but the Gunnar Nelson wasn't wearing any hand wraps with his gloves, and I don't know if you could touch on that, and maybe I don't think they forgot to put it, or maybe the commission out there sucks, it being over there in I believe it was in Scotland, and I believe that's where it was, and but I don't know, maybe can you touch up on that if you can?
Yes, it is in Scotland. This is where things get weird. When you're talking about international athletic commissions, everybody has their own different rules. Some adopt the ABC rules, some don't, some tweak them here and there. From everything that I've seen, he didn't have any hand wraps on, which I thought was extremely strange. I don't think it was against any rules, because at the end of the day, it's going to be his hand that's going to get broken if it's not wrapped properly. So I really don't get it. I've seen this before in fights where fighters' hands were either not wrapped by choice, or it just didn't get done properly, or it completely come unraveled, so they ended up taking it off last minute. So is it strange? Yes. Is it uncommon in MMA? Unfortunately not. MMA is still a very rogue sport, despite what Dana White or anyone else will try to tell you. It's still a very rogue sport in a lot of states. In a lot of ways, the athletic commissions look at it and rule it and field a lot of the things with it. So with this being overseas, I wouldn't be shocked at all if it was something against their rule, something in their rules that were saying you don't have to have your hands wrapped. I mean, this was kind of like borderline bare knuckle in Gunnar Nelson's case with him going out with no hand wraps. But, again, it's going to be his hands that are going to get broken if they're not rocked properly and he's hitting someone in the face. Unfortunately, it didn't come to that because he got put to sleep. So it's kind of a moot point
right away.
in many ways, but still kind of a weird thing to see. I doubt you'll see this again here anytime soon in the UFC. But anytime you start going international, man, that's where shit can get weird and get weird real quick.
Yeah, man. Yeah, because I've never seen that before. I was like, hold on, because if it was in the States, man, I don't think they would allow that. You know what I mean? They would be like, no, dude, go back out there and get your hand wraps wrapped, because dude, it's like that should be, in my opinion, that should be illegal, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we got to keep this professional. We got to keep this, both sides fair. And it was kind of weird to me to see that, but yeah, man, what a great knockout that was. And also, I want to shout out to I believe her name is Cynthia Calvillo, and she took care of business, and that was nice. You know what I mean? To win out there and stuff. So the land people keep getting it, the Mexicans or whatever you want to see, you call it, whatever. And but yeah, man, I just want to shout out to her because she took care of business the right way, and man, she showed true guts and a real good strategy and stuff. So I want to shout out to her and stuff. But yeah, man, as far as that, I don't have too much to say. I just wanted to bring up that that card, the HBO card real quick, because it was an excellent card. I had fun watching it and everything. So, but yeah, man, as far as that, man, that's all I got. And I want to thank you, Brandon, for having me on, brother.
Oh man, no problem at all, man. I appreciate you listening and being a part of the show here this evening.
Cool. Thank you, brother.
All right, thank you, man. All right. We love our passionate fans here at Punch the Face Radio. One more thing to kind of clean up here on the HBO card. Miguel Berchelt may be a true star in the making. I mean, he may really be budding into something special. Keep in mind, he's only, I want to say, 26, 27. He is currently the super featherweight champion. I want to say he holds the WBC title. I'm about to double check on that now, but I want to say it's the WBC title he holds. There is a plethora of fighters that he could fight. Him being a Golden Boy fighter, it can make some things weird, but it can make some things easy. As our caller Jesse just said, Lomachenko's out there over at Top Rank. Orlando Salido's still around. He's injured right now, and unfortunately, he's going to be off of the fight here in August against possibly Gervonta Davis. So Salido's always out there. Salido's always ready to give somebody a war. Robertson Castellanos, who's also on the HBO card, he's out there, so is his opponent, Jezreel Corrales. Those two are probably rematching each other, but you have fighters out there. Jason Sosa as well is still lurking around amongst the top 10 there in the super featherweight division. So there's going to be fighters and fights out there that they can make for Miguel that's going to make sense, that's going to be entertaining to watch. Unifications would be great. Lomachenko unification would be awesome. We know Lomachenko's right now getting stalked by one Guillermo Rigondeaux. So we don't know. We don't know if that'll happen or not. But there's going to be a lot of options out there for Miguel going forward. But I think he's a real star in the making, a real budding star, because he showed in past weekend's fight of not only can he box, but we knew he could slug, but he showed he can really box. He did not get drawn into something crazy, didn't do anything stupid to put himself really high at risk. He fought a smart, patient fight. And sometimes you have to have those type of fights. You have to go in, using your head and not using your balls per se, and getting in a firefight and getting yourself hurt or being in a war. So this is one of those nights where he fought so smart. He definitely helped himself out going forward in his career. So I was rather impressed by him here Saturday night. And like I said, man, again, Joe Smith Jr., he did actually have surgery on his jaw today. In regards to the fracture, he did end up fracturing his jaw, fought the last 9 rounds of the fight with a broken jaw, which is really insane to think about that. But, not uncommon. We know Arthur Abraham did it some years ago against Anderson Miranda. So, I mean, it happened. So, Joe Smith was a clean break. It was in a different area than when he started a broken jaw back in 2010. So, he has surgery. His jaw's going to be wired shut here for about 5 to 6 weeks. I don't know if we'll see him before 2017 is out. I would think we may possibly see him before the year is out, 5 to 6 weeks. In theory, it doesn't sound that long. You're really looking at the end of August, top of September. You never know. We may be able to see him before 2017 is out. But definitely big ups to him for fighting through all of that. But also shout out to Sullivan Barrera, who right now he's going to have options, we think. The one that really looks to be the most clear-cut option is going to be HBO, possibly pushing for a fight between him and Sergey Kovalev. Now, it could be an easy fight to be made, given the fact that both fighters are promoted by main events. Kathy Duva, has been a guest here on the show, and talked about Sullivan Barrera and knowing that she really needed him to pick up a win here this past weekend, regardless of whatever happened, weeks prior with Sergey Kovalev. She needs dogs in the fight, and right now she's got Sullivan Barrera, who's a dog in the fight, and whose name is buzzing, and that's what she wants as a promoter. His name is buzzing. His name is being thrown out there after his performance he put on Saturday night. Hell of a performance on his side. So. We'll see. We'll see what makes the most sense for him. I think the Sergey Kovalev fight does. If they want to prolong it, definitely I think they can find somebody else in 175 to keep him in a featured bout if he can't get a title fight immediately. I don't think Andre Ward's going to be the pathway they go, really for two reasons. One, I don't know if Kathy Duva really wants to deal with Rock Nation again. They've dealt with him once before with the first Sullivan Barrera fight. They've dealt with him twice. For Sergey Kovalev, I think if they can, if push comes to shove and they have other options, they may go a different route. And Andre Ward probably not fighting this year, possibly moving to cruiserweight. I don't think he's going to be really an option on the table. And Sullivan Barrera really wouldn't excite him anyway. I mean, he's already beating once before. So, I look for Barrera versus Sergey Kovalev at some juncture later this year. If not, they may even revisit the Artur Beterbiev fight. Beterbiev right now is in he's kind of locked in some managerial issues and what have you. So we hope he gets free and gets that cleared up. But you never know. I mean, boxing is just definitely showed it's a weird, fickle sport, man. So shout out to Sullivan Barrera. He's kind of made good here this year after having a lot of weird stuff surrounding him earlier this year about him possibly turning down fights against Artur Beterbiev. He's gotten a date on HBO Boxing after Boxing Latino. Looks good there, picked up a win then this past weekend here on Boxing After Dark, looked good. So shout out to him, but also shout out to HBO Boxing because we have this triple header here this past weekend. We have Superfly, the triple header of flyweights here come September. So, I mean, granted their lineup isn't loaded as we're used to seeing through HBO, but what they're giving us is quality. So in this case, it's more quality over quantity. So we'll see how it pans out. I really do think the card here in September, the Superfly card, is going to more than likely be the card of the year. I think there's no way in hell that card sucks. I don't see it. And also, how can I forget in August? We have Miguel Cotto versus Kamaji. Or Kamaji? I think it's Kamaji. I don't know. Close enough. Miguel Cotto fights here next month. That's the only fight you need to be concerned about in regards to August 26th. I can't stress that enough. In the following week, you have the Superfly card with Chocolito getting his rematch against Sergey Ruskatavi. We'll have Adam on the show here next week. Adam is great with international names. That's why we love having Adam on the show. So, Superfly is going to be a great card. Bantamweights, why did I say flyweights? Bantamweights across the board, junior bantamweights. You're going to have 4 bouts. 3 of those are going to be aired on HBO. Brandon Valoria has also been added to the card. He's going to be on the undercard. So, pretty good card there. So, that's all I have for boxing here this week. Now, as far as MMA goes, last week's show, we had Brandon Gertz on the show, who's headlining here at Bellator 181. For those who didn't see Bellator 181, do yourself a favor. See if it's on your in-demand there at home through your local cable provider. Definitely download the Spike app. Try to watch the fight. And I want to give a tip of the hat to Brandon Gertz for two reasons. One, I want to thank him again for being a guest on last week's show, but I also want to give him a tip of the hat for being tough as hell. The man had a chunk of his forehead missing, and I'm not exaggerating this. Go to Punch to the Face. Go to the Twitter feed, Brandon P2TF. You'll see it on my timeline. My man had a chunk of his face missing, his forehead. He had a giant gaping hole there on his forehead, but kept on fighting. He kept on going. And you have to respect that. You have to respect any guy who wants to continue to fight. Now, the cut was pretty bad. It was pretty deep. He suffered a knee in the opening towards the end of the first round. The doctors did a good job of letting him fight. The blood wasn't running too much into his eye, but the cut wasn't getting too close to the nerve of his eyelid, so they let him go the second round. He hit Derek Campos with some hellacious shots. Campos stayed tough, hung in there, but he just couldn't get him out of there. And then, unfortunately, the doctor said the cut was starting to get a little bit too further down on his face, so they had to stop it. So shout out to Brandon Gertz for being a tough guy and hanging in there throughout the duration of Friday night's Bellator 181 card. Now, I see somebody calling in. I think I know who this is. It's been a minute since we've heard from him, so we got to bring him on. All right, man, you're live here on Punch the Face Radio.
Yo, B, what's good? It's your boy Mike, man. What's going on? Let's get it. Let's talk about boxing. Let's go. What's up, my man? What's good?
Man, it's nothing much, man. It's been a minute since we've heard from you. I'm glad you're here with us here on the show. We know you're passionate about boxing. So anytime Mike's on, we know it's going to be good, man. What's on your mind? What do you need to tell? You need to get off your chest and tell to the people.
Did you see the September 9th card? Now listen, I shit on HBO. I shit on HBO and a lot. I shit on them because sometimes they don't get the vitriol that the PBC cards get, and sometimes the PBC cards are ass too. But you know they don't come at Al Heyman, but they don't come at whatever fights be on HBO because sometimes their cards are shit too. So, but did you see the September 9th card? Ooh, that's a goodie. The whole card is fire.
Yeah, from top to bottom, I think it legitimately is going to be the fight card of the year. At least it looks that way on paper. And the fighters who were involved all bring action. There's no way in the world this card sucks.
No, fire card. From August 5th, that with Lomachenko, my boy. August 19th, Terrence Crawford and Andago. That fight is going to be amazing. To me, that fight is going to be amazing. That's going to be another coming out party for Terrence Crawford. Fuck the 26th. I don't give a fuck about that bullshit. Maybe the undercard for Gervonta Davis, but other than that, I don't give two fucks about that card. September 16th, you already know how I feel about that bullshit. But August 5th, July 29th, Mikey Garcia and Adrian Broner. It could be a shit show,
or it
could be pretty good. And then I'm seeing the Wilder versus Ortiz. If that goes off, woo, man, I'm telling you, boxing got some shit coming to him. And fuck the 26th and the September 16th, it does nothing for me. Middleweight division is the worst division in boxing, so who gives two fucks? It doesn't matter who wins because they're not going to step up to 168 or what have you, or even, dare to be great, go up to 175, because with Canelo, he fights at cruiserweight anyway. If he wins, he don't want that Andre Ward work. He don't want that shit. So, I mean, does the fight on September 16th really mean something for the hardcore boxing fans or it's for casuals? It does, for the landscape of boxing, it does nothing. But September 9th does, and August 19th, because like I always said, if Terrence Crawford wins that fight, it could set him up down the road for him and Mr. Errol Spence Jr., Mr. Strap Season. And that, to me, my opinion, that's the biggest fight in boxing that could be made. Crawford versus Errol Spence Jr. Let's get it. Boxing, that's what we do, man. Boxing over everything, man. That's right.
Now, I'm going to say this. Now, while I don't disagree with Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford. I think we got to let that marinate just a little bit. Just a little bit. I don't think we can have it right now. We got to, get May next year. If we get it May next year, take the Mayo weekend, I'm good with it.
Listen, I'm agreeing with the marinating, but you know how Top Rank do with marinating because we were supposed to get Wanma versus Gamboa. We were supposed to get that shit at its peak. And look what happens. They let it marinate. They let the seasoning. They let it want more marinating, more seasoning. And look what happened. Orlando motherfucking Salido, he said, fuck this. And you saw what he did to Wanma not once but twice. So we can't let it marinate too long because, when you let shit marinate too long, it starts to, change the consistency. We don't need that. We need it to marinate just enough so we can get it going. Now, I want to see that Crawford Errol Spence fight bad, but these fights coming up, man, boxing over everything. Let's get it. I can't wait. And then you had something on your page about Robert Guerrero. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Robert Guerrero. I'm going to know him for two things. His wife with the cancer is a remiss, God bless. That's a testimony in and of itself. He really did put the beats on Andre Berto. He sure did. He put the beats on him. And you know what? He was good. And let's keep it a buck. He was very good at 135. And then he went to that. He jumped up to 2 weight classes, which was a mistake because not all all money is good money. I know you can't say no to Floyd, but you drop up 2 weight classes, no. And him in that CrossFit training instead of being a boxer. I think those are the 2 things that really kind of done him in. But you know what? Shout out to him. You had a very good career, not a Hall of Fame career. A very good career. Hopefully everything is good with his wife. And then Omar fucking Figueroa Jr. God.
You're killing me, Mike. You're killing me.
I'm gonna bring it back, Brandon. I gotta bring back some old classic Ruskin shit. I said long time ago, how the fuck he's getting 800 racks for a fight? This guy is trash. Oh my gosh, I never liked Omar Figueroa Jr. But you know what? I want to see him fight some of these killers at 147 so he could get killed, so he could go back on his 19-month hiatus and sit on the couch like he said and do whatever. Because every time I see him in the ring, I just want him to get knocked the fuck out.
Mike has zero chill this Wednesday evening. None. It's just completely thawed out. No chill.
No chill. Don't chill on me. And then I just saw one more question you saw about Sullivan Barrera. Let's see. Who can he fight at 175? Let's see. Kovalev ain't fighting.
Kovalev. Kovalev's the only one that's going to make any sense
right now. He needs a fight on the come up. And I think that's a good test for both of them. Because, the crusher ain't the crusher because of what Andre Ward did. And Sullivan Barrera, he dealt with a punching Joe Smith. Yeah, he got hit in the head because Joe Smith, and shout out to Joe Smith Jr., fighting with a broken jaw for 9 rounds in, quit like Victor Ortiz bitch ass. He quit when shout out to Joe Smith Jr. He had a broken jaw and he fought through it. He was just outclassed that night. But, Sullivan Barrera and, Kovalev, sounds good to me. HBO, man, set that up. More good boxer, 175, more good boxer. Let's go, man.
I'm going to email my boo, Kathy Duva, who promotes both of them, and say, Kathy, let's make this happen. Let's go to work. What can I do to help this fight, come to fruition? What can I do to help you out, Kathy? I'm going to do that. I'm going to reach out to her because it makes the most sense, and I think that's a fight card that HBO would love, and it gives main events an opportunity. I mean, really, it could be a cash out for either one of these gentlemen, and on the same card, they can help promote some of the other guys they have coming up, like Devin Alexander's brother, who's a middleweight contender. who they want to try to get more exposure to. So don't be shocked if that's the route they go, and they try to get some of their guys on the undercard and have HBO air those fights. I can see it happening now.
And you know where the fight should be at? It should be at The Rock it should be in Newark. I think it should be in Newark, New Jersey at The Rock. I think that'll be the perfect venue. It's about 12, 13,000, folks. I think that is the perfect because unfortunately, I love Philly. It ain't happening in Philly, so I think that's a good spot for that type of card. Newark, you're right. You're about an hour away from New York, maybe about 90 minutes away from Philly, a couple hours away. You got the whole East Coast. You could do it there, or you could do it in Verona, New York. Either one of those spots will be the perfect place to have that type of card. And you know what? If it's in Newark, it's a hop, skip, and a jump for me. I'm going to check it out, man. Punch to the Face Radio Wednesday nights, man. I'm telling you, man, you on fire tonight, my man. Let's keep it going, brother.
Oh, man. I love Mike's energy. This is what makes the show fun. Like, when I have people who come on here with energy and have fun and who are talkative and somewhat combative, that makes this all worth it. This is why I like doing this. My man and everybody's favorite, Admiral Bromowitz, will be back next week. Trust me, he's going to shame me about something, but next week we're going to be talking a lot about Adrian Broner, Mikey Garcia. Is it PBC's cash out, or is it possibly Adrian Broner's time to put up or shut up? I mean, Broner's got to shit or get off the pot here next weekend. If he shits, it could be big. It could be really shocking.
Yeah, it can, because listen, we have spoken ad nauseum about Adrian Broner. Sometimes he's about billions and he's focused. Most of the times he's about bullshit and he's not focused. So this is the question: what type of Adrian Broner are we going to get next week? Are we going to get some bullshit where he has to move the scales? Because remember, I hate when a fighter misses weight. You've known this for years now. So let's see what type of shape, because Mikey Garcia, he ain't no one to play with neither. But I think this is gonna be a fucking classic. Because if Adrian Broner's on this shit, Garcia can't get caught. If he catches him off balance, he can get caught. But we're gonna talk more about that next week with you and the brother Adam. Shout out to him. Shout out to you once again. Punch to the Face Radio, 8:00 Eastern, 7:00 Central, Wednesday nights. Let's get it. Good talking to you, my G.
My man, Money Mike, man, I appreciate you always chiming in and talking boxing with my brother. You're welcome guest anytime here on the program. And trust me, I heard you say the name Ruckus. We're working on something. I can't say anything's going to be guaranteed, but we're working on something. We may get the band back together for one night only. We'll see. I make no promises, but we'll try. We'll see what we can do.
That'll be some classic shit. I'm telling you, if it goes down, I got to call in and talk to my Ruckus family. Yo, I got mad love for you, homie, man. Keep doing your thing, man. Punch to the Face Radio. I'm out.
All right, love you, Mike, man. Appreciate you as always.
No doubt.
All right, man. Again, that was my man, Mike Money. True boxing fan, passionate, love what he does in regards to his expression and his attitude, his demeanor towards boxing. We need more passionate fans. If you don't follow Mike on Twitter, please do. He's a friend of mine. Let him be a friend of yours. Mike Money 214. He reps that East Coast so well. I love Mike. Mike's good peoples. But like I said, for those who aren't familiar with the Ruckus is where I got my start. Let's just keep it real. I got my start there. It was 4 of us. We did a round table. We had a lot of fun. We said a lot of crazy things. The band may be getting back together for one night only. I make no promises, but for those who follow us, who know the lineage and what's birthed from the Ruckus, what we bring to the table. We're trying something. We're going to see. I can't make any promises, but we'll see. So shout out to everyone who's been rocking with the whole squad since day one in regards to the Ruckus and all the team involved with that. So hopefully in the coming weeks I got more details on that, but we'll see. It's a lot of logistics involved for that to be pulled off. So shout out to Mike, again, for showing so much passion and love for that. But, one thing that obviously we're going to talk about it more come September, that Superfly card that Mike had referred to in regards to HBO. And shout out to K2. Shout out to my man Tom Leffler, a former guest here on Punch the Face Radio. Tom is doing a lot of big things at K2, and I think people just don't wrap their head totally around it. They got some big things ahead for them and major things that they're working on with K2 that I just love. I love that HBO gave, bantamweights an opportunity to headline a card. Like, it's going to be complete bantamweights there on the television portion of the card. That's insane to think about that in today's day and age on premium cable when they, half the time, don't even show that much boxing on HBO. I mean, we had the card here this past weekend. We'll have Miguel Cotto here at the end of the month. And then we'll have Superfly and Golovkin Alvarez here in September. After that, there's really nothing else planned right now on HBO. I guess there's a chance they may simulcast the rematch between Anthony Joshua and Klitschko. So, there's not much more than that. Top Rank is taking Lomachenko, Pacquiao, and Terence Crawford over to ESPN. So, but HBO keeps scraping things together and putting on entertaining cards. So, shout out to HBO Boxing. Shout out to Tom Leffler, who's involved there with K2 over here in running things here in the U.S. So, shout out to them. I'm looking so forward to September. And I'm also looking forward to August 26th for Miguel Cotto. Everybody who knows me knows Miguel Cotto. That's all I need to say. Just need to say his name. Y'all know what it is when it comes to Miguel. Couple of quick things I do want to get off my chest. I don't want to say get off my chest. Let me recap here where I was at last weekend. Last Saturday night, so I was able to watch boxing live because I was covering live mixed martial arts. Now, again, if anybody also knows the show and knows me knows I'm a avid fan and supporter of women's mixed martial arts, and I'm even bigger supporter of Invicta FC. Invicta FC I kind of look at as being my hometown product. I'm very proud of it, very proud of what Shannon Knapp and the whole team over at Invicta FC has been able to accomplish over the 5 years that they've been putting the product out. So I just always want to salute them, thank them for the opportunity for giving me a chance to always go out there and cover their events, their fighters coming on here on the show. Invicta FC 24 was kind of doomed because you had Megan Anderson, who was going to defend her title. She ended up getting a call to the UFC to fight Chris Cyborg. She ends up pulling out of that fight. We know how I feel about that. So Tanya Evinger stepped up and said, hey, I'll move up in weight and I'll fight at featherweight. She was willing to move up in weight, fight in featherweight. Well, that lasted about a week, if even that. And then she ended up getting the call of fighting in the UFC after Megan Anderson pulled out of her fight with Chris Cyborg. So you had two different main events change for Invicta FC within a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks total. So they have to scrape up and hustle up a new main event and keeping the card going. And a lot of people are like, oh, they're going to scrap the card. I heard that, after Tanya Evinger was pulled, and I was like, nah, that's not their thing. Invicta FC doesn't quit. They're not quitters, damn it. They put on a 7-fight card Saturday night in Kansas City that was highly entertaining. Now, a couple of names that you definitely need to keep an eye on in regards to Invicta FC and going forward. One of those is Felicia Spencer. Felicia Spencer ended up getting a first-round rear naked choke over Amy Coleman. That was the opening fight of the card. Right now, she's 3-0 for Invicta FC, and she's in a wide-open featherweight division. Right now, we don't know what's going to happen with Megan Anderson. I heard some weird stuff in regards to that, which I'll get on in a second because I'm going to go on a rant here after we recap this. So she's in a wide-open division to where we don't really know what's going to happen with the 145-pound title for Invicta FC. So shout out to Felicia Spencer. 3 fights in as a pro, 3-0. She looked good. I was very impressed with her. I thought she looked even better from her first time out. Invicta, better the second time out as well. So as a fighter, you always want to see a fighter improve. You always want to see growth in them. we saw growth in Felicia Spencer. So shout out to her. I thought she looked great in her first-round submission win. Another fighter you should keep an eye on, and I think she's kind of already on some people's radar. She's also 3-0. Is Suna Davis-Sauter. I think that's how you enunciate the name correctly. She ended up getting a winning unanimous decision over Kelly D'Angelo, and her name is Tsunami. And the reason why they called her that is pretty much she's just all over an opponent. She's very aggressive, just kind of rains down on her, a lot of energy, constantly coming forward, constantly pushing the pace, and that's something I like. And you also can see a growth in her in regards to her striking, which looked a lot better this time around than it did in her last bout, but steadily improving. At 115, that right now is open. They're going to be, crowning a champion for that here. I want to see the next Invicta FC event, but she looked good. I think that she's going to have a bright future ahead of her in regards to the strawweight division, not only for Invicta FC, but down the road, possibly even in the UFC. Another fighter that I do want to show some love to is Katrina Rodriguez. Maybe they seemed a little bit more heated, if you will, maybe more animated amongst all fighters a part of the Invicta FC card. Was her fight here with Barbara Akali. Hopefully I'm not saying that right. I think it's pronounced a little bit different with her being Brazilian. Barbara kind of, I don't want to say, she kind of set the tone and weighed in right in Karina's face. So we kind of knew that this was going to be some bad blood amongst these two fighters. Rodriguez just showed phenomenal striking for her first time fighting in Invicta FC. Looked really well. This is actually her first fight ever in America, for that matter. She hit Barbara, kind of gave her the stanky leg to where Barbara was kind of wobbled and rattled, and then she got her on the ground and just ground and pounded her out for the first round, a TKO win. She was really impressive. I was really impressed by that. She didn't seem overwhelmed by the moment. You sometimes hear about fighters getting cage jitters. I've even heard that here for Invicta fighters, especially if this is your first time fighting in America, first time fighting on a stage like Invicta FC. You have people watching you not only live in the crowd, but you have millions of people watching you on UFC Fight Pass and know this fight is going to be, aired forever and be able to see BC forever. She fought and looked very relaxed, looked very calm throughout the fight. So shout out to her as well. So she was one of the stars that I thought of the night that I was really impressed with what she did, how she performed here on Saturday. Also, Pam Swanson, she was coming off of a loss, and she looked good in her return bout. She faced Helena Colson. Now, for Helena actually had two different opponent changes. She was originally going to fight Megan Anderson in the main event for the Women's Featherweight Championship. Then she was going to fight Tanya Evinger, who was going to move up in weight. So, for Helena, you kind of got to feel bad for her because, things kept on changing on her. This was not of her fault. This is nothing that she did wrong on her end. It's just things end up happening that way. 3 different opponents. She was getting subbed in the first round via armbar. I hope Invicta FC gives her another look, which they probably will. That was her first career loss. So we shall see Ju-Jin Fry versus Ashley Cummings. Very competitive fight. Fry ended up winning the fight on the cards. A lot of people there in the crowd and us on press row thought Ashley Cummings won, thought she won the second round for sure, but 2 judges saw it as saw it 30-27. That was something else I had a real big beef with was the scoring Saturday night was god-awful, and I often talk bad about athletic commissions. The Missouri Athletic Commission is a pure bag of shit. It was awful. The judging and the scoring for some of these fights, we were sitting in press row, and me and one of the gentlemen from Sheerdog were like, he kind of looked at me, he's like, did I hear that right? Yes, you heard that right. We heard a lot of weird scoring. It's a shame that things happen that way. It's a shame fighters get robbed by poor judging and poor scoring. But again, this is the fight game. You don't ever want to leave it into the hands of the judges because wacky shit can happen. And unfortunately, that happened, I think, here Saturday night for Ashley Cummings. I thought she actually did a good job, and I thought she won the fight. Competitive fight, but I thought she won. And then the main event, actually ended up being Moira Romero Barrera versus Melania Duva. And, it was kind of one of those things to where the building kind of had the air kind of sucked out of it after the Fry Cummings fight, because that was the co-feature in a very good fight. And just seems like a lot of fans and we just couldn't get into it, unfortunately. Barrera fought a good fight, fought a good solid fight, won a unanimous decision, won a split decision. The judges got it right there. It's weird scoring, but they got it right. But it was one of those things, like I said, man, it just didn't seem the energy was there after the co-feature happened and what have you. So, but nevertheless, shout out to Invicta FC. They're going to be back on the road. They're actually going to take the show on the road here for Invicta FC 25 here next month. Invicta FC 25 is going to go down here August 31st. That's on a Thursday. So mark your calendars now. On a Thursday night, live on UFC Fight Pass from Lemoore, California, headlined by Yanka Konatskia versus Raquel Pinihanu. That's going to be for the women's bantamweight championship. And then also the co-main event, another title's on the line. They're going to crown a new strawweight champion where Leva Ronaldo Souza versus Jody Escobar. Those two ladies are going to square off here for the strawweight. So we have a bantamweight championship fight, we have a strawweight championship fight, both live on UFC Fight Pass Thursday night, August 31st. Obviously, I will be making sure I remind you to tune in to watch that card. Invicta FC always delivers, but it's on a Thursday night this time around. So I want to definitely make sure everybody remembers to tune in August 31st. Now, my closing thought here for tonight, and again, I don't like doing this kind of stuff, but then people push me here to the edge. We'll go on the rant now. We'll talk a little bit more UFC here in a second. So, as I'm working the event here, and I'm setting, they have our table set up here for media. A couple of weird things were said. Let me first start off here with the Megan Anderson thing. Now, Megan pulled out of her fight here against Chris Cyborg, where she's supposed to fight here at UFC 114. The weird thing is that the rumor that was going around, at least on Press Row, is don't be shocked if she's back in Invicta FC or possibly just released altogether. Right now, there's really no idea of what the UFC is going to do with their 145-pound division. Chris Cyborg has already kind of said that she's moved on. She's looking to fight Holly Holm after she wins here in UFC 114. It's kind of almost like a foregone conclusion for her. So she's already looking past Megan Anderson. It's almost one of those things. That ship has sailed. She's fighting another champion, Tanya Evinger, so she's pretty much moved on. She's not even really – Megan's no longer really on her radar, which is kind of sad given as much talk as Megan gave. But one thing that we talked about there on Press Row that we all kind of wonder how this is going to work out is Chris Cyborg's contract is going to be one more fight here after UFC 114 or October. October, her fight contract expires. Whichever happens first, her contract is done with the UFC, which leads me to kind of believe this. I don't think she's going to fight Holly Holm between now and October. And I don't think she's going to re-sign with the UFC. Now, will the UFC give her more exposure? Absolutely. But there's a guy out there who she's worked with before who has his own featherweight division, currently has a champion who really has no one to fight her. And that would be Scott Coker, and that company would be Bellator. Do not be shocked at all, in the least bit, if after this last fight or October, whichever comes first, Chris Cyborg's going to be part of Bellator. That's kind of a foregone conclusion a lot of us have. So, with that being said with Megan Anderson, there's a lot of weird things with her contract. There's still not a lot of clarification as to why she even pulled out of her fight. No one there on Press Row really knew, so we'll see. So 145 is still a very fluid situation there for the UFC. Now on to the media itself. There's some people in media who are really cool, nice guys. Some of the ones I talked to on Press Row. There's other ones who are just flat-out weirdos. Now, there's one guy in particular who's been for the last couple Invicta events here in Kansas City that's kind of a weirdo. He when he does post stories, they're typically kind of more of the perverted angle, if you will, kind of playing off more of the sexuality of the women's fighters and talking about who won, weigh-ins and who was dressed in what. It just kind of comes off as being very weird and very disrespectful to the female fighters. And that's an avenue and a lane that I just don't want to ever go down in regards to promoting women's mixed martial arts. These women can fight. These women can beat up a lot of guys, including this guy in particular. So I thought that was weird. He said a couple slick comments in regards to the PR guy who was actually working the event, who the PR guy got right back with him. So, I just got to say to MMA media as a whole, if you like what you do, show respect to the people who put on the product, who put on the event, and the fighters. Don't go out, talking greasy once you're at an event. If you don't like the event or don't like the way something is set up, don't cover it. I think there's always going to be other media out there who is hungry for that position that you have, who would gladly take it from you and properly report and promote the event and the fighters. I think it's kind of shitty the way some of these people act when they do get these media press credentials. And some of the things they say and some of the things they do in their actions while they're at the events, I think it's just completely uncalled for and unnecessary. So, I'm always going to defend and do things the correct way when it comes to Invicta FC because, like I said, I'm proud of their products. I'm proud of what Shannon Knapp has been able to do in these last 5 years. So, just cool it. I don't want to call the guy out completely by name, but I'm close to because it's just a weirdo. And a lot of people in MMA media would easily know who I'm referring to when I say a perverted MMA writer who writes when he's talking in regards to women and their bodies and their shapes and all this other stuff. He just says a lot of weird stuff in his articles. He's this real weirdo. So, yeah, I can't do it. So, for any more, if I ever see him again in any more MMA events,
who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that?
That's going to be the easiest way of me kind of getting rid of him. So, it is what it is. I had to go on my tangent about that. One quick other MMA note is, honestly, I forgot the fights came on here Sunday from Glasgow. So, luckily, Twitter and DVR helped me be able to watch the fights. I completely forgot they were going on, which leads me to my next comment. I had no idea there was a UFC fight card here this Saturday on Fox. No clue whatsoever until today. Now, I understand Dana White has other things that he is worried about, such as promoting his television show that comes on UFC Fight Pass, Dana White's Tuesday Night Fight series, and as well as him promoting a certain fighter who fights here on August 26th. The problem is, the products that help you get your own show on UFC Fight Pass, the product that's helping said fighter have promotion for his boxing match on August 26th, is getting ignored. And that's a shame. I had no idea UFC was going to have a fight card here on Fox. It seems like it's been poorly promoted. The fight card here this past Sunday for Glasgow, it was also seemed like it was poorly promoted. The UFC seems to be more focused on an individual fighter. I will give them the credit. They are doing a good job of promoting UFC 214 here at the end of this month. I pray to God everything goes correctly with that to where nobody gets pulled out of that card. But we know stranger things have happened. But here, this coming Saturday, my only thought on the fight card is UFC Long Island is going to be a put-up or shut-up night for Chris Weidman. Let's just call it how I see it. Chris Weidman has to either shit or get off the proverbial pot. The former middleweight champion, he needs this win more than anything in the world right now. And I think he realizes that. I pray to God he realizes that. He's right now coming off of 3 straight losses, a TKO loss to Gegard Mousasi, a knockout loss from Yoel Romero, and then a knockout loss to Luke Rockhold. So he's lost against 3 top-tier guys. He lost his title to Rockhold. Yoel Romero just fought for the interim championship. Gegard Mousasi is going over to Bellator, where he's more likely going to be the middleweight champion sooner than later. So, it's not like he lost against slouches. By no stretch of the imagination. He faced 3 straight killers, lost to all 3, but all 3 were stoppage losses. So that kind of scares me a little bit. For Calvin Gastelum, his opponent, Calvin is one I still don't really have a real good vibe about. He's technically coming off of 3 straight wins. He actually has a no contest in his last fight here this past March against Vitor Belfort, where he tested positive for marijuana after the fight. That fight was turned into a no contest. But before that, knockout of Tim Kennedy, decision over Johnny Hendricks. I don't know. Calvin, this is probably going to be his toughest test to date. Well, with the exception of Tyron Woodley, I'll take that back. Tyron Woodley was probably his toughest competition, but that was at welterweight. He's now full-fledged middleweight. This is now going to be his third consecutive fight at middleweight. I don't know, man. This was a tough one to call, but my heart is saying Chris Weidman for the win. But this is gut check. He can't have 4 straight L's. A 4th straight L, and I would say his time in the UFC is more than likely done at this juncture. I think this has to be a win. He has to pull this off here Saturday night. If not, it's done. It's done. I mean, he may even want to even think about retirement. If he suffers 4 straight losses, all of them stoppage, I think that's something. If anybody is in his ear, they have to maybe say that to him if you're concerned about it. If you lose 4 straight that way, maybe time to hang him up. Otherwise, here, this card, quite honestly, maybe I can understand why it wasn't really heavily promoted. It doesn't have a lot of sizzle to it, if you will. Jimmy Rivera versus Thomas Almeida, that's going to be on, that's your opening fight for your main card. Patrick Cummings versus Gil Vellante, light heavyweight. Dennis Bermudez versus Darren Elkin is your co-feature of the night. So, not a lot of star power on the card from top to bottom. So we'll see. I mean, maybe that's why the UFC hasn't been pushing this so heavy. So we're just a couple of weeks away from UFC 214. This will be our appetizer. Let's just pray everything goes fine between now and July 29th where John Jones and Daniel Cormier can get in the ring with each other. If you haven't seen the promo for that, I surely suggest go to punchtheface.com. We do have the video for that. It gives you chills. I will openly admit that. Typically, I don't get sentimental like that, but a very well done and well pieced together promo done by the UFC to promote that. So, looking forward to that here in a couple of weeks. But that's all I have for the show this week. Appreciate my callers. Appreciate Jesse calling in. Appreciate Money Mike calling in on the check-in. Appreciate everyone voting here on the Twitter poll in regards to how you'll remember Robert Guerrero. The consensus thinking is everybody's going to remember him for beating the bejesus out of Andre Berto. That's kind of a shame. Andre Berto is going to be like a punchline once his career is over in boxing. I mean, to his credit, he did get that rematch and did send Victor Ortiz to hell. So in my book, he's still a good guy. So shout out to him. Next week, man, you know what it is, man. Adam Abramowitz is back. SaturdayNightBoxing.com is what he represents. SN Boxing on Twitter is his Twitter handle. Make sure you give him a follow. Make sure you go visit the site. We'll be talking Adrian Broner versus Mikey Garcia. I'm supposed to call him Mikey Guerrero. We'll talk Mikey Garcia versus Adrian Broner. Should be a hell of a fight card. Honestly, the fight card is pretty solid, all around. And I think they're going to show us 3 fights there on Showtime for that. So, looking forward to that as well. You have on that same card Jamal Charlo versus Jorge Sebastian Highland, Jamel Big Baby Miller versus Gerald Washington. I think that honestly could be the fight of the night. I think you got 2 heavyweights who are going to try to punch a hole through each other. I'm really looking forward to that fight more than anything on the card, as crazy as that sounds. Katie Taylor is going to be making her U.S. debut. Billy Dibb is actually coming back to the States as well, fighting. I know he's made friends with Mikey Garcia. Shout out to Billy Dibb. Kind of a good guy. He's a good guy. Kind of had weird circumstances working with 50 Cent and SMS Promotions. And once he came over here from the States, from Australia, his career just never was the same. So glad to see he's still around, still at it, if you will. But never the same after being managed by 50 Cent. That's not a good thing. That's not a good phrase you want to hear. Just ask Ricky Skimboa how that works as well. So we'll definitely be talking about that here on next week's show. And as well, your Twitter comments, your calls, your emails will be a part of next week's show. So look forward to that. make sure you follow me on Twitter at BrandonP2TF. Feel free to email me throughout the week at brandon@punchtheface.com. And as well, make sure you check out the Facebook page where we have a gallery of photos that we have here from this past weekend's Invicta FC. So just search Punch to the Face on Facebook. So it's Punch, the number 2, the Face on Facebook. Join, like our page, and look at all the photos there from Invicta FC 24, courtesy of Miss Donna. So shout out to Miss Donna for making that happen. Otherwise than that, man, that's all I got here for this week. Again, appreciate the callers and the tweets and everyone voting on the polls. Until next Wednesday night, we'll be back with another Punch to Face Radio. I want everyone to stay safe, stay blessed, and I am out.
Napa know-how.
The Napa guy knows not to judge a man by his car's multicolored paint job or absence of modern gadgetry. Who cares if it's technically old enough to vote and the windows are powered by the strength of your left arm? Your monthly payment is zero, and it'll stay that way. Because with over 500,000 parts and a little Napa know-how, you can keep anything on the road. She may not be pretty, but she's all yours. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.